cold airport lights, the low hum of rolling suitcases, and then that pause, the moment an immigration officer looks up from your passport and studies you. You smile, you stay polite, but your heartbeat gives you away. Because deep down, you know something most travelers don't want to admit. One wrong answer can quietly end the trip you've been planning for months. In 2026, airport immigration isn't just about stamps and visas anymore. It's about patterns, consistency, and how you sound under pressure. The questions they ask may seem casual, even routine, but they're not random. Each one is designed to test your story, your intent, and whether you truly plan to leave. And here's the part that surprises most people. Many travelers don't get stopped because they lie. They get stopped because they hesitate, over-explain, or sound unsure. Today we're breaking it down. These are 10 airport questions that still trap travelers in 2026, and what officers are really listening for when they ask them. Number 10, can I see your passport? It sounds harmless, almost automatic. Can I see your passport? Most travelers think this is just an ID check. It isn't. In 2026, this is the first behavioral scan, and it starts before you say a single word. The officer isn't looking at the document yet. They're watching you, how fast you reach for it, whether your hand shakes. If you oversmile, avoid eye contact, or rush to explain yourself when no explanation was asked for. These microsignals matter more than people realize. A calm, neutral movement reads as confidence. Nervous politeness reads as uncertainty. And uncertainty is what quietly raises suspicion. Officers are trained to notice patterns, not personalities. A passport that fumbles out of a bag, a forced laugh, a sudden change in posture. None of these prove anything on their own, but together they create a first impression that sticks. The biggest mistake? Trying too hard, over-apologizing, over-smiling, or treating the moment like an interrogation instead of a routine exchange. The safest approach is simple. Move naturally. Hand over your passport with steady hands, brief eye contact, no extra commentary, because this moment sets the tone. And if you pass this silent test of behavior, the next question won't be about how you move. It'll be about whether your story holds together. Number 9. How long are you staying? How long are you staying? It sounds like small talk, but it's not. In 2026, this question is designed to test one thing above all else. Do you have an exit plan? The officer isn't measuring time, they're measuring certainty. A clear answer feels safe. 10 days. I leave on the 18th. It signals preparation, structure, and intent to return. No tension, no confusion. A vague answer does the opposite. About 2 weeks. I'll see how it goes. Certainty matters. Those few words suggest a lack of control, and to an immigration officer, that's where problems begin. What catches many travelers off guard is how fast hesitation changes the tone of the interaction. One pause, one glance away. Suddenly, a simple question feels heavier than it should. The key here is confidence without oversharing. You don't need to explain your entire itinerary or justify every day. In fact, doing too much often creates more questions. One concise sentence is enough. This isn't about sounding impressive, it's about sounding certain. Because once your timeline is clear, the next thing they want to understand is why you're there in the first place. And that's where many stories start to unravel. Number 8. What's the purpose of your visit? What's the purpose of your visit? This is where everything clicks into place, or quietly falls apart. With this one question, the officer instantly categorizes you: tourist, business traveler, student, or in some cases, a potential risk. And that category determines everything that follows. Sometimes one word can change the entire conversation. If you say tourism, people expect hotel bookings, a return ticket, and just a short, logical stay. But if you say business, suddenly your meetings, your contacts, and your timeline matter a whole lot more. And if you mention studies, then documentation suddenly becomes critical. The real danger isn't actually the answer itself, it's the mismatch. Like your words might say one thing, but your documents suggest something totally different. For example, a tourist with no accommodation, or say, a business trip with no clear agenda. That's when those routine questions can turn into deeper screening. Honestly, a lot of travelers get themselves in trouble by over-explaining. They start to ramble, add unnecessary details, or try to justify their presence before anyone even asks. And the more they talk, the more room there is for inconsistency. The safest approach is honestly also the simplest. Just be direct, be honest. One clear sentence delivered calmly is really enough. Because once your purpose is set, officers move on to a more personal calculation, whether you actually have a real reason to leave when the trip is over. Number 7. What do you do for a living? This question honestly isn't really about curiosity. It's about stability. In 2026, immigration officers use this moment to answer a quiet but critical question. What pulls you back home? A steady job, a business, school. These aren't just occupations, they're anchors. When someone describes their work clearly, it signals structure, routine, responsibility. For example, I work as an accountant in Chicago, or I run a small online business. Short, factual answers like these create a sense of order, stability, anchors. The mistake a lot of travelers make is assuming certain jobs are risky. Freelancers, students, or folks between jobs often panic. But honestly, the role itself isn't the problem. Poor framing is. Uncertainty in language raises flags, like I'm kind of working on a few things, or I'm not sure what I'll do next. In these situations, clarity matters more than prestige. That vagueness suggests a lack of direction, and direction really matters at the border. What officers listen for is confidence and clarity, not prestige. Even temporary situations can sound stable when explained calmly and simply. This question helps them assess your reasons to return. But, it doesn't stop there. Because once your professional life is clear, they start looking at something closer to home. Who's waiting for you on the other side of the border? Number 6. Are you traveling alone? Are you traveling alone? It feels casual, almost meaningless. But this question is rarely asked without context. By the time you hear it in 2026, the officer often already has an idea of the answer. Passenger data, shared bookings, and linked itineraries can quietly reveal who's connected to whom. So the real purpose here isn't information, it's verification. A clear, confident response keeps things simple. Yes, I'm traveling alone. No, I'm with my partner. They're at another counter. Short, direct, no hesitation, verification. What triggers suspicion is uncertainty. Pausing too long, looking around, or, adding unnecessary explanations. These moments honestly suggest there may be details you're unsure about or trying to hide. Officers know that people who lie often stumble on small, seemingly harmless questions. And when a story changes at this stage, it casts doubt on everything that came before it. They already know. Calm certainty reads as low risk. Your body language should match your words. Relaxed posture, steady tone, nothing defensive. This question helps confirm whether your story aligns with their data. And once that box is checked, they move towards something more personal. Because next, they want to know whether someone on this side of the border could give you a reason to stay longer than planned. Number 5. Do you have family here? Do you have family here? When this question comes up, it often lands after a brief pause, and that pause matters. Immigration officers aren't digging into your personal life. They're checking for anchors, emotional or logistical ties that could quietly justify staying longer than planned. Having family in the country isn't a problem. Many travelers do. The issue is how the answer is delivered. A simple, measured response feels safe. Yes, I have a cousin here. Or just as clean, no, I don't have any family here. Where people get into trouble is over-explaining, listing names, histories, living arrangements, or future plans that weren't asked for. The more details you offer, the more opportunities there are for follow-up questions and inconsistencies. Officers listen for tone as much as content. Defensive answers sound suspicious. Casual, straightforward ones do not. They're also checking alignment. Does this answer match what you said earlier about where you're staying and why you're visiting? If it does, the conversation stays smooth. This question helps them assess intent. And once intent is mapped out, they move to something more concrete. Because at this point, they're no longer just listening to your words, they're quietly checking them against records they already have on screen. Number 4. Have you been here before? Now this might sound like a casual conversation, but by the time this question is asked, the answer is rarely a mystery. In the year 2026, immigration systems already display your past entries and exits the moment your passport is scanned. Dates, locations, length of stay, it's all there. So this question isn't really about memory. It's about honesty. Officers aren't expecting perfection. They don't need exact dates or airport codes. What they're really watching for is alignment. A calm answer that generally matches their records keeps things moving smoothly. Where trouble starts is with guessing. Like, I think so, maybe a long time ago. Or worse, denying a previous visit that clearly shows on screen. Even small inconsistencies can trigger a deeper review, not because they're serious, but because they suggest uncertainty under pressure. Honesty. The safest approach is simple and factual. Yes, once a few years ago, or no, this is my first time. Tone matters more than detail. A steady voice, no overthinking, no filling the silence. Consistency. This question acts like a thermometer. It measures how you handle truth when it can be easily verified. And once that trust is assessed, the focus shifts away from your story and toward whether you're following the rules at all. Number 3. Do you have anything to declare? Do you have anything to declare? This is where the conversation often slows down, and the silence feels heavier. In 2026, this question is less about catching criminals and more about testing honesty and awareness. Officers want to know if you understand the rules of the country you're entering and whether you're willing to follow them. Most problems here aren't intentional, they're accidental. Cash slightly over the limit, food items tucked into a bag, medication that's legal at home but restricted elsewhere. Many travelers genuinely believe they're fine until they're not. And this is the harsh truth. I didn't know rarely protects you. Border rules don't work on intentions, they work on declarations. What officers watch closely is how you answer. Calm disclosure signals transparency. Rushed denials or defensive explanations do the opposite. Declaring something doesn't automatically mean trouble. Hiding it often does. If you have something to declare, just say so simply and clearly. If you don't, respond with quiet confidence. No joking, no overconfidence, just clarity. This question draws a line between cooperation and resistance. And once legality is addressed, the focus shifts again toward whether your entire stay actually adds up on a practical level. Number 2. Where will you be staying? Where will you be staying? On the surface, this sounds like a basic logistics question, but in reality, it's one of the most revealing moments of the entire check. By 2026, booking systems, passenger data, and travel records are often linked. In many cases, officers already have an address, a hotel name, or at least a general location on their screen. So once again, this question isn't about discovery, it's about confirmation. What really draws attention is hesitation. Digging through your phone, or maybe scrolling frantically through emails, well, that search suggests unpreparedness, even if your plans are totally legitimate. You don't need a perfect answer. What you need is a confident one. An approximate location delivered calmly works far better than a precise address delivered nervously. I'm staying at a hotel downtown, near the train station. Or, I'm staying with a friend in Brooklyn. Both of those sound organized, both sound planned. Problems really start to arise when the answer feels improvised. I haven't really decided yet. Or, I'll figure it out when I get there. To an officer, that kind of response suggests uncertainty. And uncertainty, well, it invites scrutiny. This question actually helps them decide whether your trip is grounded in reality. And once that box is checked, everything narrows down to one last thing. Because now they don't need explanations anymore, they need proof. Number 1. Can I see your return or onward ticket? This is the final checkpoint, and honestly, it's often the moment where everything is decided. By now, the officer has listened to your answers, watched your behavior, and checked your records. This question isn't really about conversation anymore. It's all about exit intent, proof that your story actually has an ending. A confirmed ticket creates clarity. It shows planning, it shows limits, and most importantly, it shows that you're leaving. Without one, you enter a gray zone. Not guilty, not approved, just, well, uncertain. Some travelers assume flexibility works in their favor, but flexibility without evidence just looks like risk. The good news is, a refundable or changeable ticket still counts. Officers aren't judging the price or the restrictions, they're judging intent. This is also the point where outcomes split. Ticket ready? The interaction often ends quickly. No ticket, or maybe some hesitation while searching, that's when secondary screening becomes a real possibility. Everything you've said so far leads up to this moment. And yet, here's the twist. The real test was never the ticket itself. It was how calmly, consistently, and confidently you navigated every question before it. Because, the questions don't trap people. Inconsistency does. Here's the truth. Most travelers never hear. Immigration isn't about catching liars. It's about spotting inconsistency under pressure. Officers aren't looking for perfect answers or flawless paperwork. They're listening for tone, watching your calm, measuring whether your story stays coherent from the first question to the last. A confident, consistent traveler often passes with fewer documents than someone who sounds unsure with everything in order. That's why small things matter. The way you hold your passport, how quickly you answer, whether your story shifts when the pressure rises. These signals speak louder than words. So remember this. Stay calm, keep your answers simple, and believe your own story, because hesitation creates doubt, and doubt creates problems. And if you think that's the most stressful part of airport immigration, think again. In the next video, we're breaking down what really happens when you hear those words everyone fears. You've been randomly selected for secondary inspection. Trust me, it's not as random as it sounds. It's not about lying. It's about consistency. Stay calm. Keep it simple. Random secondary inspection.